Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Not Just Cricket live on the Cricket Smash YouTube channel. Hello to you wherever you are, whether you're watching us live, whether you're listening to us as a podcast, because this will be going up pretty shortly once we get it all sorted. We've just seen another tough day for England. Let's not beat around the bush. All us English fans are feeling a little bit beaten up right now, I think, especially if you stayed up all night for it. Australia 271 for 4, 356 ahead. Another brilliant century from Travis Head on his home ground, supported well by another guy playing on his home ground, Alex Carey. He is 50 odd not out. Australia in a dominant position. But Azeem, England have shown a bit of fight today, particularly Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer with the bat probably showed the way forward on a flat deck for the top order batters who haven't done it again. And England in general have reined themselves in or tried to with the bat. In this test match, have they just been outplayed in all departments by a better team?
Yeah, I think, look, Australia have been the much better team, especially in the field, and the way they bowled yesterday was a lesson to everyone, really, how to bowl on good batting pitches, to be patient, to keep it simple, to dry it up. Have England necessarily just been beaten by a better team? I'm not sure. I still think there's facets of play. I think we've said this several times. I think England play a game late, like tactically. Actually, yesterday, I'm not sure there was a need for Ben to be as defensive as he was. Look, in the end, he's managed to get a score and he's helped his team. A lot of that, I think, credit of that does go to Jofra as well for, the way he played. But I think
it's very hard to criticise Stokes, though, isn't it, for the way he batted? He showed some real spirit. That's what we needed from the top 4 or 5.
Well, this is the thing, I pulled up a podcast we did last year, 21st of May last year. Is that, all of a sudden, after telling everyone to go out there and whack it for 3.5 years, the minute you ask them to rein it in, they're going to find it very, very difficult. And see, Ben's better than the rest of them. So at the drop of a hat, he's decided that he's going to rein it in, and he's been able to do it. For the others, it wasn't going to be that easy. Also, yesterday, a second day to Adelaide pitch, why does he need to either block it or whack it? He was going at the strike rate of 29 yesterday, and it was the best time to bat. The scoreboard came stuck. A lot of times yesterday, you felt like he could have converted that 29 strike rate into a 41 or a 42, like as he showed today. So I'm not criticizing him as such, but I do feel that they are all the messaging for the last 3.5, 4 years. All of a sudden, I think Ben's the first one that has panicked. But while panicking in that messaging, and that's with selection as well, he has been able to look after his own game and find a way to fight. And the rest of them have been found wanting. Adelaide's a good batting pitch. There was no need for him to be scoring at the strike rate of 29 yesterday. I didn't feel.
Do you think when England lose this test, because pretty sure they will, this one's going to hurt even more because they have ditched Bazball, haven't they? They've kind of accepted, well, it's not working. We've gone back to a more traditional way of doing it, and we've still come up short.
Yeah, they've ditched it, and it needed ditching, but it needed ditching with some sort of balance. It didn't need the complete other extreme. But again, I'll take you back to that podcast because I listened to it yesterday. It is what happens when you operate in extremes. You go from one to the complete other because under pressure, this was never going to hold. It's been, you say it's easier to take. I'm not sure it is. It's been such a frustrating watching England because in a way, you can see everything play out in front of you and you know it's going to happen even when they get a couple of wickets. And then you know what they're going to do after getting a couple of wickets and getting an opportunity to try and get through it. It's as if we've been watching this for the last 4 years, knowing full well that this is what's going to happen, some of us. And, we've gone into it and we're watching it play out. And it's very, very frustrating to watch because, again, I would say this Australian team even when you look with the Weatherall review, this innings, this Australia team isn't as good as what we've come up against in the past. So I think there's a few things. There's the expectations leading into it, but then watching it play out, it's been like slow death, to be honest.
Big difference in this test match. Obviously, we all knew it was going to happen. Is between the spinners. You got Nathan Lyon, who is now the second leading wicket taker of Australians of all time. Only Shane Warne is ahead of him. He is one of the best. He's one of the greats. And we picked a guy who is very much learning his trade. He's not a frontline spinner. He's a part-time spinner. At the time, I thought I wasn't that bothered about it, but now I'm seeing the big difference. I'm not saying Shoaib Bashir would have made a huge difference. I don't think he would have done. But just the selection of jacks, was it a real panicked selection? Because it was almost like an old school one, where you pick someone to lengthen the batting lineup, like Duncan Fletcher would sometimes do that. You pick a bowler who could bat at number 8 because there was no one who could bat at number 8, but he wasn't necessarily the best bowler. I just don't understand really whether we ever thought this was an attacking selection. It felt like a really defensive selection.
Yeah, listen, his selection for the squad was a defensive selection. He, for me, shouldn't have even been in the squad to start off with. And that goes back to Rehan Ahmed with the performances that he had this year. He should have been in this squad. That's the starting off. The second point is he plays in the last test, and just because, and this is when I'm part criticizing Ben. This is the sort of blowback I've had on Twitter and, even sort of UK where you can't criticize him. It's a similar thing. You've sort of Will Jacks, because he batted for an hour and a half, whatever it was at the end of Gabba. It's like, oh, look at this. This is the fight we need. We need this type of characters. And it's like, right now, Will Jacks is our savior. And it's like you step back and you think, how have you got to this thought process that on the Adelaide pitch, that Will Jacks as your number one spinner, you weren't going to get the outcome that you'll find yourself in today. But for me, through the thinking from the minute he has been selected in the squad to the minute to him being picked last week to him being picked this week, makes absolutely no sense. And I actually feel sorry for him. I really do, because he is being compared, because he's going to be, with a guy who's the second, highest leading wicket taker, spinner for Australia, and because of that, his sort of ability is going to get even highlighted even more because of who's on the other side. I feel for him. It's been a difficult watch because you can't set a field that he's gonna be able to hold length remotely anywhere. I would have played Bashir even if he is struggling. Right, that is what you've come with, right? And that is what I would have done, because that is what you've brought. It was your decision, and trying to cover a little bit of batting, cover a little bit of this. What have you done? You've covered nothing.
When we look at it in the cold light of day, because I don't think Shoaib Bashir at all is the answer. I really don't. I think he needs a couple of years in county cricket learning his trade. Are England never going to be a top test side or a top 2 test side until we find a proper spinner?
Well, I think Shoaib Bashir is a great example of what English cricket does with spinners. Right from the start of it, he should have never been picked. But did he have the raw materials, the raw sort of stuff that could turn him into a very, very good international spinner? Yes. And he's shown that, by the way. He's got 50 odd, he's one of the quickest ones to get 50 test wickets. But he's done all of that without any professional cricket. He doesn't have a county. And I think this management has got a lot to answer for. Because he should never have been put in this situation. His county doesn't have him as second choice. They've had him as third choice, and now they've released him. So that says a lot about the think tank. I think Jeetan Patel, I don't think a spinner has improved under his, while he's been coached. So what is he doing? What is actually going on there? And to your question, you've got to have a world-class spinner in your team to be able to win in all conditions against the best teams in the world. You cannot just go around picking, on hunches, on high delivery points and all that crap that we heard about. You just can't do that. And it goes little bit deeper though. I've seen so many things, and it's a bit weird talking about spinners out of an Australian tour. This normally happens after an Indian tour, and we or a subcontinent tour. And as we spoke about that last year, is that we have never produced world-class spinners. It's not because of the schedule. It's not because of the pitches. We've had all sorts of schedules. We've had all sorts of formats. I know everyone loves blaming the 100 for everything. I'm not a 100 fan. Now you've sold off August. I'm not a fan of that. But I've seen tweets blaming the 100. It's got nothing to do with the 100. We do not produce spinners. And a large part of that, having gone through that myself, is because of our lack of understanding of how to coach it and our lack of understanding of how to captain it. And now in the last sort of, I would say, the last sort of decade or so, the counties and the county pitches have very much been right. We need, we need sort of dibbly dobblers, and we just need that type of cricketers. And the spinner just needs to be a batting all rounder who bowls a few overs. So there is no one getting to ball. And a lot of the spinners that make their way, they make their way in white ball cricket. So there is a combination of factors. But the big one being is we do not understand how to coach it. We do not understand spin at all. And we definitely don't understand how to captain it.
Yeah, listen, it's hard to disagree with a lot of what you're saying there. And you would know from first-hand experience. Let's look ahead to the final innings, because this game isn't over yet, although I think most people would agree it probably is. But, England might be chasing 450, 500. Who knows what could happen with this side. But I'm more interested in how England are going to play and a couple of individual stories within the innings as well. So, first of all, Ollie Pope, I think most of the spotlight will be on him. Does he have one innings here to save his Test career? And realistically, does he need 100?
Yeah, well, I mean, without doubt. Look, as you know, I've been a massive, I've sort of protected Ollie Pope while he's been getting a lot of criticism. But that first inning shot in the circumstances that England find themselves in right now, and everyone's next on the line, I think he's the easiest one, having seen the decline of being the vice captain, and then losing the vice captaincy. And it's a bit weird because at Perth, I thought that's the best he looked in that first innings at Perth. But he's found himself in that situation where, I think, to be honest, even if I'm not sure anything saves him tomorrow, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. And actually, I feel like it might be the best for him. The things that I've been talking about of him not being a number 3 are now things that, some of the big pundits and some, people with a bit more of a voice than myself are talking about. And I think that, that for me should have happened a long time ago. I think Ollie Pope will go back to county cricket. I think he'll score a bucket loads of runs, but I think he's got to come back at 5. Possibly even the gloves is his way back in. That's another route he's got to explore with himself. And I think he needs a space out of this environment until this environment decides what sort of management and think tank that they're going to have, because he's one of this is why I have more sympathy for Ollie Pope than others, because I am aware that he has not enjoyed this environment as much as some of the others have, because the lack of training and all of that, the vibes and stuff like that, I think it's affected how he's wanted to go about it. He should have been strong enough to go, you know what, I'm going to make my own decisions. So yeah, I think there's going to be a bit of time out of the England team for Ollie Pope. But listen, he's very young and he's played a lot of Test cricket. He can very easily go back, sort of look at what Ian Bell did in his career when he was dropped, and sort of pick up some of them things and then come back as a number 5, number 6, and have a brilliant, rest of his Test career.
Yeah, I actually, like you, feel sorry for Jax. I do as well. I feel sorry for Ollie Pope his whole Test career because he's not a number 3 and he's had to go in and bat in the most difficult position. And I think had he gone in at number 5 or 6, he would have had a much better career. So he's had to do a job. He's had to do a job that he's not necessarily qualified to do. And I think, whereas someone like Harry Brook is allowed to bat at number 5, a lot easier. So I do have sympathy for him.
Well, that's exactly the other person I was going to talk about, actually. And I think if moving forward, it's all going to be about what we're going to do moving forward. For this environment to get back into some sort of reality, I think a show of how they deal with Harry Brook is going to be is how they're going to have to do it. And I think sometimes you've got to take some tough decisions, and you got to get tough with people. He's got to go up to number 3 and take responsibility. Simple as that. And also, I think that all the chat around him has got to change. That he can do this, he can do that. We all know what he can do. But if he's going to continue to run down the pitch, hacking at bowlers, then we're going to not get what we should be getting out of him. And I think everyone's going to have to really get ready for the ride ahead. Really, I think there's been a lot of backing to a lot of these lads without justification of the backing, and they've let them, they've let the people that have backed them down. Really, they've not performed, and the likes of Zach Crawley, Harry Brook, these guys are going to have to now take some responsibility for themselves, and I think it's the way England go about it tomorrow that I'm more interested in. If I see tomorrow Harry Brook running down, I honestly don't care how many runs he gets. If I see someone like him running down the pitch tomorrow, I would be seriously pissed off as a teammate. And I think this England whole think tank, I've got a lot of. The one thing I do think there's going to be a positive after this Ashes series that's not the case before is that they can't go at county cricket. They've disrespected county cricket, and the whole thinking behind every decision coming into this series, the preparation, the individuals. We've not heard from Rob Key, we've not heard from Luke Wright. When have we seen that in English cricket before, where the selector, people don't even know who the selector is? So I think there's a lot of questions up top, but tomorrow
everyone knows that Rob Key is the selector. He talks to the media.
Luke Wright's the selector as well.
Sorry, as in Rob Key is the
well, Rob Key's been missing. We've not heard from Rob Key throughout the last, God knows how long now. So, and it's been quite shambolic, a lot of the stuff on this tour. So there's got to be some serious accountability there. But tomorrow is all about individuals deciding what the future looks like for themselves. And I would, if I was a friend of Ollie's, if I was a friend of Zach's, and I'd be like, listen, tomorrow, just zone in. It's going to be about, and you can see by the reaction people have had for Ben, it's going to be about how much you can get stuck in more than actually the impact you make in the game. So yeah, I think big day for a lot of individuals tomorrow. Can I just finish on some praise for Jofra Archer? I think Jofra Archer has been absolutely outstanding. Ball. I think the way he batted was seriously like a proper batsman. He defended at the right times. He read the game. The way he supported Ben, it's actually a reason why we are not completely gone in the game for what it's worth. And I think at times he's had unfair criticism. We've talked about the whole, and it keeps coming up, and there's an underlying problem with it, the whole body language thing. And if you look at Jofra Archer's stats, and there was a worry around his physical fitness coming into the series, he's been absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I will second that. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. I think we'll probably talk about that sort of whole negativity around Archer and that body language thing in a later episode, because I think it is worthy of a proper chat and the reasons behind it. And I think you and I probably both think in a very similar way as to why that is. But yeah, he has shown in this game, he is one of our tough guys. He's one of our fighters, and he's one of our most talented players as well. So, he should not be criticised. He really should not, and I will not listen to it. Thanks, mate. Good chat again. Fascinating to see how England go about their final innings in Adelaide. Are they going to go down swinging, or are they going to just try and knuckle down and get there? Obviously a win would be one of the all-time great wins, but I think most of us will settle for just a decent effort. That's how beaten down we are at the moment. Thanks very much for listening, guys, or for watching. It's Not Just Cricket, and you'll hear from us very, very shortly. Goodbye.